Well, sports happen. The great thing about sports is we love them because we're diehard fans, and we we cheer for our teams when they do well. And a lot of our teams around here do really well. And some nights and some weeks just doesn't happen. And that is the case again tonight. Thought it would be cool to do a instant reaction episode. We're on a lot later than what we normally are here on Gem City, but I thought it would be cool just because, again, Game 3, SeaWolves Rumble Ponies getting started late because of a delay, and maybe it would have been a little better to end earlier. But really, I think the whole premise of the episode tonight is going to be just talking about baseball, the SeaWolves, the Tigers organization, because for 4 straight years, the SeaWolves have won at least one game in the Eastern League Championship Series, but they have now only just won the championship. I say only, but twice in 4 years as they fall to Binghamton 8-2. Final score in Game 3 of the Eastern League Championship. Rumble Ponies win the title. And this might be a little bit of a come-to-Jesus moment for some fans of the Tigers organization who might be upset right now, because the man who we're about to bring on covers this team, covers this organization more than almost anyone on planet Earth. And he's got some things to say. So welcome into the show, everyone. We're sponsored, as always, by Redbridge Investments, keeping financial guidance simple. 814-734-3433 is the number of the call. www.redbridgeinvestments is the website to join. Let's bring him in. Rogelio Castillo of Tigers Minor League Report, who so graciously is on with us tonight after sitting through the live stream of Game 3 tonight and also doubling watching the Tigers game this evening, which that's a double dose of pain that I wouldn't wish upon my worst enemy, certainly in the big leagues. Yeah, it's been that kind of week, right, Raj?
Look, I mean, when you're down the Ohio Turnpike and you pass the place that's giving you pain and to the place that gave you pain last night, then only pass the pain again, it's the Ohio Turnpike has been nothing but not gracious to us at all.
So were you at the game last night in Cleveland?
Or I was at the game in Erie last night.
In Erie last night, okay.
Yeah, and so driving by today, it was raining. It was raining pretty hard, and so yeah. I thought that was a bad omen. Usually they say rain, like for example, your wedding day is a good day, but I didn't see it that way today, and it was just going to be a disaster for the Tigers, and it's just, Isaac, I've seen a lot of baseball in my life, but there's just some things you just go, I got nothing.
Yeah. Well, I was at the game in Cleveland last night. I surprised my wife, who's a big Guardians fan, and I don't know why I had some hope. We're going to get into the Tigers in a few minutes, but I don't know why I had some hope. The Riley Green home run got me really excited. They're up 2-0 in the 5th inning, and I got to admit, I went to the bathroom when Scooble did the whole tryout for the NFL move, which what he's thinking, I have no idea, but if there's a microcosm of how September's gone for Detroit, ball never left the pitcher's mound or got further than that, and they gave up 3 runs. So we're going to talk about the Tigers organization in a second. But, of course, this is an instant reaction episode, Rogelio. You just watched it. We all watched it. Game 3, SeaWolves lose 8-2. We could go into the specifics about the game, and I want to in a minute. But I think before anyone gets frustrated, and this is I think going to kind of be the line of this episode, can we just sit back for a second and appreciate the fact that this team that was kind of bare in the cupboard up until Clark, McGonigal, and Briseño got to Erie, I mean, back to the championship series with a new manager and Andrew Graham, I think we kind of have to look at this from a 360-degree view, Rogelio, and think that they've been the 4 championship series in 4 years. They've won 2 of them. They were within a game in both of the other ones. I just legitimately think, as a surface level, they ran into a juggernaut. And, you have stats. The offense didn't do them any favors. But, I mean, they're probably happy and at least lucky that they won a game, because this could have easily been a 2-game sweep.
Oh, absolutely. Binghamton is probably the best team in the Eastern League. They won 90 games for a reason. They have really good pitching. We saw that on display tonight. Their bullpen extremely deep, and this is a team where they even had 3 other guys right now are up with the Mets, and they in the pitcher they had in Windhanger was probably the best pitcher they faced all season. He had a total of 25 swings and misses tonight. 25 swings and misses. His splitter was ridiculous, and Erie. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Andrew Graham did a hell of a job with, this is the 4th straight year that Erie's gotten the championship. and they're able to piece together first half and second half title with all the changes that happened to the roster, with Troy Melton gone. You had Trey Cruz, you had a lot of these veterans that are gone, and he was able to piece together, Richard Gouache, who they got from the independent league. They were able to do a lot of things, and tip of the cap. There's no shame, but Binghamton has a few more big leaguers on that roster. That's a very good ball club, and no offense to Altino wasn't Binghamton. Binghamton was a real.
Well, and look, we could go down the roster. We could talk about the guys who had big games today for the Rumble Ponies. The pitching, of course, 11 strikeouts for Wenninger. I mean, I think I was listening to the broadcast with Gainey and Lebowitz, and they had said that in April when Erie faced him, he had a 1-2-3 first and then gave up 5 or 6 runs in the second inning. So it was probably the one game all season that he didn't perform very well. But I mean, you look back, I have to laugh because, again, going back to the point that it's nothing that Erie did, you go back to 2022 and that Somerset lineup that they had to face after they won game 1, I believe it was 5-4 in Erie, and then they went to TD Bank Ballpark and just got absolutely smoked. But you look at that lineup, it was anchored by Jason Dominguez. Chaparro was there. Jason Rosario was part of that top 3. I mean, they had bombers. I mean, at some point, you kind of have to look at the roster and say, should we just be thrilled at the fact that Erie got a game in both of those series? And I think, look, this was a 2-2 game going into the 6th. I think the biggest thing for me, Rogelio, and you probably have a good stat about this, was the fact that the top of the lineup just wasn't there tonight. They had an opportunity in the bottom of the 6th, down 5-2. They get guys on second and third. Malgeri and Mendoza both get on second and third, nobody out, and then 3 straight guys at the top of the lineup with Clark, Peck, and McGonigal go down in order. And I just think that the top of the lineup just wasn't there when it probably needed to be tonight. Because if you're going to want to win games against a team like Binghamton, you got to have your top 4 hitters hit the ball, and they just didn't tonight.
Yeah, they go 1 for 13 with 7 strikeouts. I mean, if you're going to count Briseño also was 0 for 4 in the cleanup spot, going 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. That is not going to get it done. And the bottom of the order was able to help and put the production in. And that was a veteran part of the lineup. And that's where you see the kind of like the merging of things going on right now with the SeaWolves, where you're seeing a changing of the guard, if you will, because these guys this is their first postseason experience for them.
Yeah.
And at a higher level like this. And so I think this was a good challenge I thought Clark did a really good job of being more aggressive in the batter's box today and trying to work the counts a little bit more. But some of the stuff that the Rumble Ponies were throwing out there, nobody was hitting. It was that good. In 96, 97 with movement, with that kind of stuff from them, that was a challenge for them. And this is going to be a learning experience for them. I think that these guys are professional hitters. These Clark and McGonigal, I think Briseño is still going to be here, but these guys, you can see Clark and McGonigal in AAA next year at some point, or the start of the season. Who knows? But it was just a very good learning experience. And again, there's nothing wrong with taking an L in this series.
Well, let's be honest. I mean, there's not many guys in the Eastern League that have a splitter that's as effective as Wenninger's is. And there are a lot of guys in AA who have a second pitch that's effective, but not to that extent. And it doesn't really matter what's part of the year that you're in. You face a guy like that in AA, even with the ability that Clark, McGonigal, those top 3 guys have. You're just not good enough yet to be able to hit that consistently. Right now, the big leagues aren't good enough to hit that consistently. We saw that last night with Gavin Williams, who was putting balls in the dirt, and Kerry Carpenter looked like he was back in single A 5 or 6 years ago. But we'll get to the Tigers in a second. I want to look into 2026 just for a moment, Rogelio, because, I mean, it's early. Obviously, the seasons for minor leagues just wrapped up. You guys, of course, are now focused on whatever's left with the Tigers season, whether it's 3 or 4 days or, in best case scenario, playoff series. But what does Erie, in your mind, have coming back for next year? Is this another team that you think, based on the way the roster and the organization is going to look, do they have a chance to make another run next year? I mean, we know Clark, McGonigal, probably, if they're still in Erie at the beginning of next year, it's not going to be for very long. What does the rest of this team, you think, have to offer if you had to put a pin in it right now?
I think offensively, I think they're going to be fine. I think if these guys, if Lorenzo is going to come back, if Briseño is going to come back, I think even if to a certain extent Clark comes back before he goes up to Toledo, I think they're offensively they're going to be fine. I think they're going to get some reinforcements from West Michigan that's going to help out. I think another year from Steph Stevenson he's gonna help them create some chaos in the lineup. Is my concern is where the pitching is going to be, because you look at the starters last year, like the starters, as far as like Pena goes, is Pena going to be a guy does he go to Toledo? What do you see from Gary Burhan? Well, it was kind of concerned last night. His velocity dropped a little bit. Is Burhan going to be, they're going to start using him as a reliever? The starters, what Graham was able to do was a miracle because all the starters, and is Ham going to get more velocity in the offseason? I think that I have concern. The legitimate concerns to me are in the starting pitching, and that's where if a guy, right now Carlos Moncada down in West Michigan might get a chance. Rainer Castillo at West Michigan regressed a little bit, at least in my opinion. So it really depends on what the kind of reinforcements they're getting from West Michigan. But right now, as I look at that 92 win roster that won the Midwest League, that's great. But at the same time, that transition to AA is so hard, and the Eastern League wasn't as good as it usually is, because outside of Binghamton and some of the other, maybe Akron wasn't as good as they should be. But that's pitching's the biggest concern for me next year, because where is it going to come from? And with all the injuries too.
Yeah, I mean, you might have to legitimately hope that Owen Hall flourishes so quickly that he can find somehow a way up to AA at some point. I mean, I know, again, you just drafted him last year, but that might have to be something on the back burner that you look at. I think you make a good point, Jaden Ham. Can he get faster with the fastball? And I mean, quite frankly, we've talked about this for Helliot. We talked about it last week on the show. You've talked about it on your show. The pitching depth in the top 30 is just not there. It's position guys. So I'm curious to see what they do in Detroit, that being in the offseason. Do they try to bolster some pitching? And if so, do you get some guys in Erie? But I don't know. It'll be interesting. Regardless, though, I also, too, think, because I don't want to touch on this before we get to the Tigers and the organization as a whole, in Andrew Graham. You followed him closely last year with Helion, Michigan, which is where you guys have your stomping grounds at. Who knows if he comes back or what they do with him, or if they shuffle him in the organization. Gabe Alvarez is, I think, in a good spot in Toledo, unless they try to bring him up, in which case you would think Graham's in line for a promotion. But what do you make of the job he did? You just were complimentary a minute ago to him. I thought, given the pitching issues that they had, the lack of depth, and the fact that, I mean, let's be honest, McGonigal, Clark, Briseno didn't necessarily light the world on fire game in, game out. I thought he did a pretty darn good job, and I was skeptical of him at the beginning of the season. I didn't know if he was going to be able to replicate what Alvarez did, and he came within a game of doing that.
Andrew Graham is, I think, by far a manager. There's a reason why he has 800 wins. I mean, he has done a very good job. This is a guy who won. He came within a win last year at Lakeland when it was all because of simply rain out last year, that they didn't win the title. He has won everywhere he's gone. He is a guy who trusts his veterans and trusts his coaches. And I think that what he was able to do with even Lorenzo, for example, he hasn't caught since July. And so you look at it this way, Briseno was caught. There's a lot to be said about a guy who's never caught as much as Briseno has. And I think that might have played into his struggles a little bit, because when you're catching more, there's a lot more on your mind. There's a lot of things going with that. And I'm not making an excuse for Briseno, but as a former catcher himself, Graham understood that. And I think he was able to, he had certain guys he trusted and lined the defense well. I think the other thing, too, that stands out to me is simply this. Whatever guys he got from West Michigan, he was able to plug in and play right away outside of the big three. Even I saw Steph Stevenson was good. I thought that John Peck really turned things on a little bit, and Peck led the Midwest League when he came up here. But again, that adjustment to high A to AA is such a big deal, and Graham was able to use him right away with the loss to Max Anderson. This is a team that didn't have Max Anderson either in the second half of the season, and the offense struggled a little bit, and they found their way, and Graham, kudos to him. They weren't a team that were stealing a lot, but they just did the little things right. First to third, execution of those things, that goes a long way, and I think that the guys really respect Graham and what he did this year.
Yeah, and I think the bottom line is the SeaWolves will be fine. The organization, as we're going to talk about in a minute, is still a lot better than what people would like to give him credit for. And if Graham's still there, great. He can manage this team probably to another championship series appearance, at least, if not playoffs. And I think now the standard for Erie, as it is with the Tigers organization, is playoffs. And that's been pretty clear. 4 straight years that you made the championship series. I think it's literally the team on the other side. I don't think it has anything to do with the team that you trotted out there, because the team you trotted out there still had a lot of talent. But they were within a game 2 years, and they won it 2 years. And this is an Erie franchise, an organization that has not had that since 2022 or beforehand. And again, congratulations on a great year to Erie. And really the whole minor league organization, because you look at the championships that were won elsewhere, and it's been a pretty successful year for the boys that are in affiliates of the Tigers. And Rogelio, that brings us to Detroit, because I think it's only appropriate we talk about this. You know, I want to give you the floor here because, you know, you follow this team on a day-by-day basis. You get it. This is not how AJ Hinch envisioned it to go. And I was at the game last night. I was amazed and maybe perplexed, for somebody who doesn't attend every single game, by the lack of plate vision that these guys had. And these are all former SeaWolves. I mean, you look down the lineup, you take out Torres, you take out McKinstry, it's all former SeaWolves guys, right? I mean, Kerry Carpenter was swinging literally at everything in the dirt. Spencer Torkelson had that 2023 sort of lack of plate vision that we saw kind of come back to haunt him. Parker Meadows just isn't the Parker Meadows that was when he moved up to Detroit. Wenzel Perez has become invisible. Dylan Dingler, not only can he not hit this last 2 weeks, he can't catch either. And he's making bad decisions behind the plate reading. So what on earth, Rogelio? Is it literally just a lack of confidence? Is it that this team wasn't as good as we thought that they were at the beginning of the season? Like, what do you make of this, in the fact that this team is probably not going to make the playoffs at this point?
I think the Tigers have played above the water all season. I mean, I think it's been clear of that in a way. They are a good team. Don't get me wrong. They're a good team, but when you look at Cleveland and you look at the plate discipline Cleveland's been able to do, you guys got like Jose Ramirez and Stephen Kwan, who control the strike zone. They're exactly what Scott Harris want, or what they are. That's all the Tigers are right now. They're not 19 strikeouts is not controlling the strike zone. 19 strikeouts is Al Avila days Tigers. And that was to me, I don't know what happened to these long at bat, like these professional at bats that were taken early in the year. Maybe teams figured them out. I don't know. That part, what has been baffling to me the most is Tanner. He hasn't done anything all Tanner. I'm drawing a blank on his last name right now for Cleveland starter. Hasn't done
Tanner Bybee.
Tanner Bybee, thank you.
Yeah.
Tanner Bybee hasn't done anything. And he certainly locks in against the Tigers.
Yeah.
That's how it's gone for Cleveland. That, to me, what Hinch has done, everything he possibly can, every matchup, every single thing, and just nothing's working. You know, Scooble getting mad yesterday with the media yesterday. It's these teams, like I'm sure they're hearing from fans like they don't care. They care. They do. They're doing it. They can. But as much as baseball as I watch, I cannot. I think the Tigers were doing what they, with Javi Baez taking the lackadaisical at bats again. I don't want to say they gave up the white flag. I just think they were pressing too much. And AJ said they weren't pressing. I disagree with that. It's just, you cannot, against a team like Cleveland. Cleveland did this last year. Cleveland has had the Tigers number for the last 2007. It go back. Yeah. There's so many times where Cleveland's come back and slowly it's like a snake wrapping around that. And, you know, unfortunately, we witness history. One of the worst, the biggest collapse. And I think that the one thing that we have to go look at next year is, or in the offseason, is what are they going to do? What is Scott Harris has to do something, whether it's drastic or not. There has been progress being made. Don't get me wrong. We saw that with the minor league system. But now you have the big league club, and you're not going to even possibly win 90 games right now. You might get swept in Boston. I mean, Boston just, you know, Alejandro Kirk just got thrown out from field line, from first base. Boston has Chapman. There's a lot of things. The Tigers have weird history in Boston. We all saw it in the playoffs. It is. I wish I could give a better answer than that. I just don't. I think they have to make some drastic changes. They have to, because if this is what Harris' thing about controlling the strike zone, then go out there and get players that can do it.
Well, let's be honest. And I hate to state the obvious here, because I love all of these guys who are in the lineup. I loved watching them in Erie. I loved what they did for the first 130 games of the season. But this team is still too young. They're just too young. I mean, you can't expect Gleyber Torres to come in and be the one vet, and even Javi when he was hitting the ball well, and expect to be the stir of the straws to drink. I think the problem that they ran into is, you mentioned pressing. They don't know what they don't know. Sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes it just gets you to do things that you really shouldn't do or aren't supposed to do. And when you look at this lineup, it's funny, Ross, because when you look at this lineup, 50 games ago, you'd think, okay, there's no great hitter on this team, but 1 through 7 most nights, 1 through 8, even sometimes 1 through 9, you feel confident that every guy's got a chance to get a hit. Now, because nobody has confidence, there's not one guy you can point to in this lineup that you can say, I trust him to get a hit in a big moment. Gleyber's not that guy. Kerry Carpenter anymore is not that guy right now. Green had the home run, but he still had a couple of bad swings and misses in the game. So, and there's nobody off the bench, right? Because you can't trust Baez. He's going to hit 1 home run every 20 at bats, and he's swinging in the dirt the rest of them. So I think what this forces Scott Harris to do, and this is what I hope doesn't happen, but I think this is what's going to happen. You mentioned drastic changes. I'm worried that this is going to convince him to sell the farm system to try to get a lot of veterans. And I don't know if that's the route to go. I don't think it's a bad thing to get. You need vets. You need older guys on this team. But we've seen Baltimore do this and it's failed. We saw the White Sox probably a decade ago have a great farm system. They sold it for a couple of veteran pieces and it didn't work. Like, you have to consider what you have in the farm system. And you have to factor that in, that has to matter. But you can't roll out the same lineup next year that are all these young guys and just expect that because they're a year older, they're going to be better. AJ Hinch in Houston, even though he built the team up the way that they're doing now, still needed vets to come in and hit the ball around the yard. Like, the Tigers need a home run hitter. That's like they need a guy who's up there, in my opinion, Rogelio, to hit the ball out of the ballpark. And I just like the lineup doesn't strike fear into you. I mean, Gavin Williams last night, he wasn't even throwing near his bat. I mean, that guy can touch 100. And he was going 95, 96, maybe 97 once or twice. He was throwing fastball, curveball, and they had no answer. And they had no answer again tonight. So I'm with you. I think there needs to be some changes. I just worry this is going to convince Scott Harris he needs to sell the entire farm to get a couple of magic beans.
I disagree with you a little bit with that, because I think he's going to stick with the farm. I think it's just a matter of how much he's willing to give up of the farm. I think the big three is going to be part of it. I think what he has to do is, I don't think he's going to do what Dave Dombrowski once did and give up the entire farm. What I think he's going to have to do is, instead of just getting the 32-year-old retread AAA pitcher and trying to flip that, he's got to get creative on a trade side of things. For example, like, you think about Dombrowski in the sense of getting a guy like Carlos Guillen for a couple prospects, and that was a guy to give you a cornerstone shortstop for 3 or 4 years, something like that. He has to be creative, and he has to. That's where good GMs are. That's where good GMs are made of, is being creative with what you have. And so far, we haven't. The Tyron Lorenzo and getting that Sweeney. At first, everybody loved that trade. Now, all of a sudden, people are like, get Trey Sweeney out of here. And you still have Lorenzo, but you got Flaherty back. They have to be. I think Harris is not going to give up. He loves his prospects too much. And I think he's going to find a way to make it work with what he has. I think what's going to happen, however, is you're going to see a mass exodus of guys like Andrew Magno. All these guys are free agents. There's going to be a lot of guys who hit that 6-year mark and going to be gone. What you're going to see is more what hopefully is Harris's guys. I mean, keep in mind, the excuse everybody's saying is, well, look, these are Avila's guys. That excuse might fly out more as this offseason happens. So they might, what I think might happen is that the thing he has to be, if he's going to make trades, is be creative and not force him. Like, there's rumors about him being non-negotiable with trades and being stubborn about that. His reputation might have to change. That's things you hear about that stuff. Well, it's been reported everywhere. And I think Harris is a good guy. He's a great man to lead this office, because the front office, like the farm system, is way better off than it has been. I think Tiger fans are being impatient because they've been so used to losing right now. So, but I think if he gives up the farm, guys like Briseño, guys like Clark, if they trades like that, then you defeat the purpose of what you're doing. And I think you can't. It's just, again, what team is you going to target the trade for? Everybody knows what you're going to need. You need pitching. You need starting pitching. You need a third baseman. So what is he going to do? How aggressive is he going to be? How much more money are you going to throw at Alex Bregman to get him over the hump to sign him?
The thing I laugh about, Rogelio, and I think you could probably agree with this, is the fact that 2 years ago, I think people would have clamored for 85 wins with a week to go in the season. You would have prayed for it. You would have thought there's no chance on earth this is happening until 2030. So logically, it doesn't make sense to be as mad as people are. And I think you could make the same argument with the SeaWolves. I think there are going to be a lot of fans tonight that are sad that they lost the game and say, well, the top of the lineup could have gone better than 1 for 13. But my gosh, 4 years ago, this team wasn't close to the postseason. And so, the funny thing about all this is they still could make the playoffs, still could be a wild card team. They still, and this is probably going to be the worst thing for them, they still might have to go play Cleveland in a wild card series in Cleveland again, which would be absolutely hilarious to potentially see Skubal and Williams for the third time in 2 weeks go head-to-head against each other. But, yeah, I'm with you. I think fans have to be understanding of you've got the right manager. I think you have the right guy in Scott Harris because he's built this prospect pipeline. And my thing with getting rid of guys is, you could still afford to lose 2, 3, 4 decent names and then get better veterans, get more pitching. Because I think the cloud over everything is Skubal going to re-sign? Not that he has to next year, but at some point you got to start having that conversation. So, look, the Central's not going to get any easier. Cleveland's not going anywhere. They continue to win year in, year out. Kansas City is getting better, although they're not great just yet. They're still theoretically in a playoff position. Who knows whether the Twins will ever break out of whatever slump that they're in, but you're still going to have to win 90, 92 games to win the Central. It's doable, Rogelio, but I think the thing that frustrates me the most is the fact that this division was literally there for the taking the entire year. And despite the young youth in the lineup, it's literally 2 or 3 games, right? Don't get swept by the Pirates. Don't lose 8 straight down the stretch. There are just so many little things you point to that it's my gosh, if you just did this, then you would be fine.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, you try and avoid using the Captain Hindsight kind of thing a little bit with that, but I look at teams like the White Sox when they're Chris Getz, they're pitching better. They have a good young core. Kyle Teal is going to be a pain in the butt. Colson Montgomery is a guy who came out. Who's going to be a steady shortstop. That's another guy they have to worry about. White Sox they're a lot better than they were last year. They gave the Tigers a hard time this year, and that's a team that I think that Chicago is another team that you have to consider. That being said, you're absolutely right. Kansas City has a young core. They have a Bobby Witt Jr. to them. They have guys that this is a team that will continuously get better. Cleveland, like you mentioned, Cleveland is a pitching machine. They will find pitchers out of nowhere. It doesn't matter. But what I think the Tigers have to do next year is you're going to hear the trade Skubal thing get louder and louder and louder because what they're going to do is say you have a potential 2-time Cy Young Award winner with a 6.5 WAR season, whatever it is, and you can get a bunch of guys back to help your farm system or help your team. Well, get a veteran hitter, those kind of things. That is going to be so loud this offseason, Isaac, that you're going to tell your family I can't go online. It's going to be unbearable. Trust me. And it's me going to be writing articles every day about it. I have to not want to do that. I digress. But I think that what the Tigers need to do, in addition to having a strong offseason, is address what they have eternally as far as who they're going to shift around. Colt Keith's back is a concern, so you have to worry about that. And you have to look eternally. Where's Bryce Rayner going to start at next year? Is his shoulder going to be fine? Where's Jackson Jobe? They have so many eternal things they have to address first too. So it's almost like the Tigers right now is literally it's when a fire. It's they're putting out multiple fires at a time right now, and right now they're trying to fix everything at once, and it's going to be the same way in the offseason. It's going to carry over. It really is.
Yeah, you're going to have to take 2-3 weeks just to figure out, to your point, all the injured guys, where do they fit? Are they going to be able to play? Do you trust that guys like Jobe can come back and be what they were for a period of time? Your starting rotation is going to be a problem that you have to look at. You have to look at your bullpen too, because that hasn't been as strong as you would like it to have been in the last 3 weeks. And then ultimately you have to take, I think, the pulse of the guys and say how much confidence did they lose from the month of September? Because young guys does a number on you when you don't when you go through something like this. So we all say this, and the funny thing is again, they still could make the playoffs, but it's amazing to me looking at what this September has been. But then you see all the success of the minor leagues, and you're like, it makes you want to scream because it's literally right there. It's right there in front of you. It's just figuring out how to get over the hump, and Detroit has not done that. And the frustrating thing is that they're still young. You still didn't expect them to be in this point at this part of the year 2 years ago, but here they are, and this is what you have to deal with. So, do you think they get in? Truthfully,
I don't think so. I mean, I'm trying my hardest not to be. I look at this logically, but a game like last night, I thought they were fine until last night. That game last night, you were there firsthand.
Yeah,
the crowd was loud, and I watched the replay when I got back to the hotel last night in Erie. That was a different type of crowd. That was a playoff crowd,
no doubt.
And death by 1,000 cuts. It was unethical. Chris and I kept joking around, called it unethical baseball. Who bunts? That Cleveland does, because Cleveland's gonna go. You know what? We're gonna. They found another way to get the Tiger's head, and I think that broke them last night. I really think that. And Houston right now is playing the Athletics later. Houston doesn't look like they're in the right mindset. I want to think that Tigers are going to win on Thursday and then take one in Boston. They just need to win 2. But good grief, man! It's just when Flaherty has 74 pitches after 4 innings. I'll be honest with you. It doesn't look. I as much as I don't want that to happen, I don't know if they're going to get in. I really don't know. And it's weird that within a year ago, just to see this the other way around, now we're witnessing it firsthand. It is the most painful September I've had in a long time.
I hate to equivocate what I saw last night to a little league team, but I mean, I don't know if you played when you were younger, Rogelio, but okay. So have you ever been on those teams where you're sitting there and you feel good, you feel confident, you're about 4 innings in, and then you get to the bottom of the 4th and the other team gets 1 or 2 little things that shouldn't rattle you at all. Maybe they get a base hit off of a crazy bounce in the infield, or they bloop a single that's way high up in the air, or the catcher drops the ball, and you're still in a good spot. You're up 2-3-0, but you just look around the diamond and you just know that it's just not going to go well the rest of the inning, because you see the look on people's faces and it's like, yeah, they're checked out. That's what I saw last night in the 6th. The second Scooble, it wasn't even the underhand, whatever you want to call it, between the legs throw. It was the first one. The second that Quan gets on base, or whoever it was gets on base, you just could see it. You knew, you heard the crowd. And I think a veteran team probably would have handled that a little bit differently. And that's why I say for the young guys, it's tough, because they're not in that situation. They played in Cleveland last year, but it's a different situation, because this time the onus had been on them to win the division with the way that they had been playing. So it was hard to watch. It really was. And props to the Cleveland crowd. I think a 3-game series between these two teams again would be awesome. I don't think Detroit would win it, but I think it'd be awesome. But it's sad and it's crazy to think about that we're at this point. I don't want to keep you anymore, Rogelio. I appreciate you coming on. I know it's been a rough week for you. and the worst thing is you got to write stories about this moving forward. So here's hoping they make it, so at least you get some solace and be able to get to cover some more playoff baseball for your troubles.
Yeah, and I just applied for my credentials for the postseason. And look, I mean, the bottom line is, really, the fan part of me wants them to be in the postseason, but the journalistic side of things, from what I've seen, and you're mentioning the Little League example. It is like a team. The best example of this is when I was on a team that didn't win a game for 2 years, and in their 3rd year, we got a chance to win the division or win our league title. And it was the first time we were there, and we won 4 in a row, going to the title game, and one error. And I was the catcher, and literally a play at home didn't go my way. I was pissed, and the ump called it, and we ended up losing game 12-2. and we got stomped, and that was the closest I ever came to it. But I understand where you're coming from with that, because it's like they're plain pressed, and I hope that going to Boston that they can get some relief, because I love to change the fortunes from the Boston, from the Benoit and Hunter in the right field. Please, just come on. Fenway, just
the funny thing about that is, if Poppy doesn't hit that grand slam, we're probably not talking about the Tigers as we are now. I mean, they're probably still dealing with the ramifications of all the other trades they would have made, because they would have made the World Series. And would they have won it? Who the heck knows? But we'd probably still be talking about a terrible farm system. So, I mean, in a roundabout way, at least we're getting to talk about somewhat successful baseball. But, oh, my gosh, dude, I remember that was one of the series that because I don't always watch baseball from end to end, start to finish. That was one of the series I watched from beginning to end. Maybe one of the most painful moments of my fandom career was when Poppy hit that grand slam and Hunter dives over. I still don't know if he's recovered from that bullpen thing. But man, they need wins. They got to win something.
You're not a Bills fan, are you?
No, I'm not.
Okay, well then, all right, then you actually good. Okay.
But I've covered the team for 5 years, so I understand what you're saying. Like, I saw fans walk out of that stadium 2 years ago when they walked out of the divisional playoffs. I saw them last year in the AFC Championship. Like, I understand what the feeling is like. Luckily, I don't have to deal with it on a personal level, but this is tough. This is tough. I subscribed to a 5-day trial of Fubo so I could watch the game in its entirety tonight, and it wasn't a good idea. I'm going to cancel it tomorrow so I don't have to watch it. It is not worth the struggle of having to cancel that subscription so I can take out the reminder on my phone that I have to do after 5 days, because otherwise I'm going to get charged like $80. Sometimes when you're in the wrong frame of mind, you make bad decisions. So there you go, kids. Moral of the story tonight is make good choices and don't make any impulse decisions, because it'll come back to bite you. Hey, man, I appreciate you coming on. This has been a lot of fun. Hopefully you get to talk more playoff baseball next week, but if not, there's a good reason for it. But seriously, appreciate you as always. It was fun watching you on the SeaWolves live stream tonight, and tremendous stuff this year. If nothing else, get some rest, get a vacation in, because you guys have probably been going a million miles an hour.
Oh, yeah. This was my 55th game going, so between Erie, West Michigan, and Toledo. So, yes, Isaac, I am going to take a break. And thank you very much for having me on. And this is I love talking baseball with you, talking sports in general, man. Have a good evening.
Hey, man, you too, Raj. I appreciate it. Rogelio Castillo, he is, with Chris Brown, the best, in my opinion, and many others' opinion as well, with Tigers minor league coverage and Tigers minor league reports. And hopefully they get some rest and maybe a couple drinks too, because they need it, because they're going to be on the struggle bus with the way that this organization is performing right now. Again, congrats to the SeaWolves on an incredible season. We will see you all Friday for high school football rapid reaction. This has been the Gem City Sports Podcast, brought to you by Rubbish Investments.